Thank you all so much for joining us here in the GEC this morning, whether that's in person or online. A particular welcome to Minister Simon Harris, who has very generously given his time to be here today to officially launch the Innovation Exchange. Our thanks also to Paul Healy, CEO of SkillNet Ireland, and Michael Culligan, CEO of Dublin BIC. It's great to have you both here. Before we start, I'd love to play a short video. We think this conveys the spirit of the Innovation Exchange. So, about this time last year, SkillNet Ireland and Dublin BIC started a conversation about whether the concept of a marketplace for innovation might work. A concept where corporates facing digital transformation challenges could be connected with SMEs who have the talent to help them achieve their ambitions. A key feature of this concept is that both corporates and SMEs gain. Both get something that can propel their business forward. Big businesses get access to innovative and agile SMEs. SMEs get access to buying customers and to a framework that gives them the capability to close deals, a basis from which to scale. And so it was decided to test the concept with a pilot programme which started in April of last year. We onboarded 103 SMEs, all ambitious, all innovative, all scaling, who got the opportunity to pitch in response to 7 corporate challenges presented by the likes of Ryanair, Glanbia, Microsoft, IBM. During the pilot phase, 700 training days were delivered. In between these milestones, a great deal of work was being done, identifying challenges, providing training on sales, pitching, procurement, assessing proposals, introducing potential collaboration partners, and of course, steering all participants closer to achieving their goals. We're really delighted to be in a position to say that as a result of this pilot, 3 SMEs have agreed to develop solutions, and that's only so far. Call out here to Glanbia and Brian Leahy, an example of an organisation who really showed up, and as a result, we hope, got a lot out of the Innovation Exchange. And to the 3 solutions providers who have secured pilot projects, Tigam, MPeel and Parley. Congratulations. And thank you for your involvement. There is no doubt that this is just the tip of the iceberg. Much, much more can be achieved. And now we have the opportunity to achieve more as Dublin BIC and SkillNet Ireland will now roll out this initiative as a full nationwide programme. The Innovation Exchange has big ambitions. It will find solutions to some of industry's digital transformation challenges. It will accelerate corporate innovation adoption. And in doing all of that, very importantly, it will create business opportunities for scaling SMEs. And we've been very busy. The Innovation Exchange has been working with industry to understand the big challenges. And today, with the official launch and our first nationwide call for digital transformation solutions, we will continue the journey to find the innovation expertise that will help deliver. And so it gives me great pleasure to invite the Minister for Further and Higher Education, Research, Innovation and Science, Simon Harris, to officially launch the Innovation Exchange.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much for having me here today. And it's great to be physically in a room with many of you again. We're all getting used to that. And welcome to everybody joining us online as well. Really pleased to be here. And the first thing I want to do is sincerely congratulate everybody who has worked so hard on establishing the merits of this exchange through the pilot project. You must take great heart from the success that you've already seen. And I'm delighted to be here today to endorse the Innovation Exchange and to join with you in announcing its nationwide rollout, the moving now from a pilot to an exchange available right across our country. And I want to thank sincerely Dublin BIC and SkillNet Ireland for your leadership and your support in relation to this. The video that you've shown has captured better than anything I can say or any of us can say the scale of the challenge we face. We live in a world that is fast evolving. We face, I believe, the greatest skills challenge of a generation. Whether that's skills challenges in terms of our housing supply, skills challenges in terms of our climate and how we retrofit our homes, whether it's skills challenges in terms of the digital transformation. We live in a world that was already changing and a world that is now seeing that change accelerated further as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And there's two different ways you can deal with change. You can fear it. You can be worried about it, you can be nervous about it and stressful about it. You can kind of wait for it to happen and work out how to respond. Wouldn't advise any of that. Better way to deal with it is to see how you embrace it, how you identify the opportunities that exist, and how you work in a collaborative manner to come up with solutions. And that's really what this Innovation Exchange is about. It's about recognising that we have many, many small and medium enterprises in this country that have an ability to provide some of the larger established corporations in this country with innovative solutions to help them evolve and change. And this word collaboration it can be a bit of a buzzword. It's a word that gets used all the time. Everyone's in favour of collaboration. The great thing is here we have a concrete example, and we've already seen through the pilot project how smaller Irish businesses coming forward and putting their hand up and partnering with larger and often multinational corporations can actually provide solutions to some of the challenges those large companies are facing. So I'd really encourage everybody to embrace this, and it is great now to see a very concrete example of real and meaningful collaboration. I do want to take the opportunity to thank and acknowledge SkillNet Ireland for the work that you're doing, the role that you're playing. I must say, when you see the return on investment in SkillNet Ireland, it's so heartening, because every cent of funding you receive from government and elsewhere makes a real and meaningful difference in reaching into business and trying to provide the supports. As a Minister for Further and Higher Education, I'm trying to start a conversation where our education system understands that not everybody needing to learn is going to be 18 or 19 and straight out of school and heading off to Maynooth University for 4 years. More and more, the learners of now and the future will be in their 40s and 50s. They'll have a full-time job, they'll be running a business perhaps, they'll have a mortgage, they'll have dependents. We need to make sure we can reach in those scenarios and provide the opportunity to upskill, to reskill, to train, to develop your career. And SkillNet Ireland is leading the way in that regard, working with partners in relation in Dublin BIC as well. So thank you to everybody who has embraced this initiative. I should say that it very much tallies with the work and the vision of government in terms of our new Digital Ireland framework. And this is a framework that seeks to maximise the benefits of digital transition for our wider ecosystem and looking at things like productivity, innovation and competitiveness. We recognise, and we need to recognise, that the competitiveness and the productivity gap between digitally enabled firms and businesses with low levels of digital maturity needs to be addressed. It really does, if we're to safeguard the future of that business. So again, it's back to how do you embrace change? We know that when it comes to competitiveness, we know that when it comes to productivity, the firm that is able to make that digital transition is going to do a hell of a lot better. And how do we all work together to make that as easy as possible? The final thing I want to say, when you talk about transition and digital change, we do also need to be conscious that we live in a country and a world where at an individual level, so many of us need to be supported to embrace the digital transition. We can talk about living in a digital world all we want, and that is the direction of travel. But we also have to acknowledge we live in a country where in and around 1 out of 2 of us lack basic digital skills. So that can be quite frightening for the citizen as they hear more and more services going online, more and more activities in relation to business being online. And that's why, to support the work of business in terms of preparing our citizens for those changes, my department has launched our first adult learning for life strategy, looking at the whole area of digital skills and how we can close that digital skills gap that exists not just in business, but actually exists right across our population, and again, not just in Ireland as well. But I genuinely believe the countries that will be best prepared for the future, the countries that have the best chance of maintaining and improving standards of living into the future will be the countries and the businesses that can embrace the digital transformation that is coming at us and coming at us really quickly. And I do think today's initiative of partnership, of identifying small and medium who can operate with large to come up with real and tangible solutions is a very, very welcome step forward. So I'm really looking forward to hearing, as this programme rolls out nationwide, to hearing of all the success stories, to hearing of all of those of you who pitched for business and were successful, to hearing of the large company who teamed up with a small one and found a solution that worked for them. And I look forward to being back here in Dublin BIC to hear those stories and view those projects in the weeks, months and years ahead. Congratulations to everyone. Gormíl Magalf.
Thank you so much, Minister, for that, and also thank you for your support of Irish business through your continued investment in talent and innovation. And we really look forward to the Innovation Exchange being a major proof point of that strategy very soon. It has been very interesting getting to know SkillNet Ireland in much more depth over the last 12 months. The breadth of the organisation's reach and the progressive nature of its remit, tackling big issues like digital transformation and climate, is really impressive. And SkillNet Ireland has backed the Innovation Exchange from the get-go. And we're really delighted to have Paul Healy, CEO, here today to share his insights on how the Innovation Exchange can bring multinationals and SMEs together. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you very much, Una. Very generous introduction, and thank you again, once again, Mr. Harris, for joining us today for the formal launch of the Innovation Exchange and for all the support that you give to us and your colleagues in the department. So for me, I think the message that we're sending out today is a really powerful message that we're sending to the SME community in this country, businesses large and small. And indeed, many of them are with us here today, and even more are joining us online. And I think we're sending a couple of powerful messages. The first is we're telling you that we believe in you, and that we're interested in your development and improving your skills and your talent as a small business owner. But we also believe in your ability to drive innovation, to be creative, to solve some of the really big challenges like digitalisation, like the sustainability agenda that the Minister referred to. But it's not just SkillNet Ireland or Dublin BIC that is telling you this. The Innovation Exchange is all about the bringing together of the multinational sector and the small and medium-sized firms, many of them global names. And they are also telling you this. They're also telling you that they can do it, that you can do it. But moreover, they're saying we need your help. And lastly, it's the Government of Ireland, through our Minister, through our department, who are saying we also back you. And we are willing to make a multi-million euro investment in your skills to make this happen through the Innovation Exchange. So yet again, a very positive message we're sending out to small business owners and managers, startups, entrepreneurs, young and old, and ambitious small business owners, and of course all of the thousands of people employed in those firms. Just as I think about today and what we're trying to do here, it's actually been talked about for a long time. And if you ever get the time and you want to do this, and you obviously have time in your hands if you're going to do what I'm going to suggest, and you flick through various government enterprise strategies going back the years, you'll see a consistent reference in there. And it talks about seizing the opportunities to capitalise on our success in winning FDI, and then using that to boost our indigenous sector. So it's a policy objective that's been there and been identified by government for a long time. And I remember one individual trying to characterised this for me, and they used an analogy, and they said, imagine if you took Ireland's FDI base and all these incredible companies that we have here, and you planted them amongst Germany's world-renowned small businesses, what they call their Mittelstand, and just imagine what they would create with that opportunity. Imagine what they co-create together, all the new products in innovation and so on. Just for clarity, Minister, we're not advocating anyone does this, okay? But and I remember hearing that and thinking, okay, I get the analogy, but I thought it underestimated our small businesses in this country, and I think it portrayed a kind of lack of belief, that actually when you create the set of circumstances, when you knit together the system in the way that we're doing now, really great things can happen. And all the evidence that you need of that is in the pilot of this particular scheme, the Innovation Exchange last year, where we had 100 SMEs, we had 10 multinationals working together, and there we saw firsthand how the firms stepped up. We could see real-world innovation projects already underway, co-creation, the winning of tenders, all of these things is beginning to happen before us. So yet again, when we build the links, when we knit the system together, and most importantly, when we invest in people through things like the Innovation Exchange, these extraordinary things are possible. So we're really addressing this policy objectives that's been around for a long time with ambition, with scale, and to make a real difference in knitting these two parts together. So what the Innovation Exchange is doing, it's breaking down silos, bringing the large and small firms together in quite a unique way. And I don't think it's a case of the large companies helping the small or even vice versa. So the Innovation Exchange is built to deliver mutual and complementary value, which is good for business of all sizes, and it's good for Ireland too. So just a couple of concluding remarks, and just people and individuals I want to thank as part of this. I want to extend my sincere thanks to Dublin BIC. I think that term partner, we hear it a lot and it gets bandied around a lot. But our relationship with you, Michael, with John, goes back over a decade now. Okay, and in that time, you have built a community of specialist skill networks. The animation skill net, the screen skill net, the immersive technology skill net, and together we are delivering hundreds of upskilling programs that are fulfilling a real market need and are helping the creative sector in this country to thrive. So it is a really strong partnership in every sense of the word. We admire your ambition, your creativity. We've really experienced your pragmatism throughout this project, and of course the deep roots that you've developed, not just with the startups and the SME sector, but also with the multinational sector, and you should be commended for that. So special thanks to Conor Carmody, the Programme Director, Claire Devine, John Phelan, of course, and Michael Culligan, and everyone here at Dublin BIC who has contributed to the Innovation Exchange. I just want to mention a couple of special people from the Skillnet Ireland team that have played a key role in this project too. Firstly, our Executive Director, Tracy Donnery, who championed this from the get-go, who identified the opportunity here, who saw the potential and spotted the potential of this programme, and convinced me and others to support it and to build the business case. Well done, and thank you, Tracy. I want to thank also Liz Thomas, our Head of Strategic Projects. Well done to you too, Liz. You've played such a vital role in operationalising all this and bringing it together, as you see today, to the calibre and the standards that's really, really evident. And well done to you, Liz. And also to Olivia Caslan and to Lisa Kearns for everything you've done in the run-up to today's launch. I want to, of course, remember the participating companies, large and small. They've stepped out of their comfort zone. They're taking a risk. They're taking a punt by putting themselves out there to embrace the Innovation Exchange and all that it has to offer. And I wish you all the very best and continued success. And lastly, once again, to thank Minister Harris, the colleagues from the department who are also here with us today, for being so generous with your time this morning and for your support of this programme. Thank you sincerely. And with that, I'll hand back to Una. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Paul. If I wasn't convinced about what a great idea the Innovation Exchange is, I certainly am now after both your speeches. Thank you so much. I understand, Minister, that you need to take your leave, so I just want to say thank you very much again for coming here today and sharing your thinking and your time with us. The Skillnet Ireland team have been hugely supportive over the last year, and we've worked together to develop the Innovation Exchange. And a particular shout out to Liz Thomas, again, Head of Strategic Projects at Skillnet Ireland. Liz has been instrumental, as Paul said, to the success of the Innovation Exchange, offering support, guidance and expertise every step of the way. And the good news is you're about to meet Liz in person, as she's going to lead the next segment. Because when speaking to people about the Innovation Exchange, they always ask us about the participants. You know, what was their motivation to get involved? What outcomes have they achieved? So on that basis, I'm delighted to invite Liz to have a conversation with Brian Leahy of Glanbia and Ori Binda Day from MPEL, an opportunity for all of us to hear from the perspective of the pilot participants.
Thanks, Una. I'm delighted to be here today as well. And a very warm welcome to Brian and Ori. Over the next few minutes, we're really going to get a deep dive into the Innovation Exchange and hear about your experiences and how you found the programme so far. So without further ado, I'll come to you first, Brian. Tell us a little bit about Glanbia and the kind of work that you do there.
Sure. So Glanbia is a global nutrition company. It's headquartered here in Ireland, but have operations all across the world. And my role within that company, I've been there a number of years. I've worked in various digital functions there, but we've recently established a digital innovation hub of our own. So last year, we would have been piloting that internally ourselves. It lined up very, very nicely, I suppose, with the Innovation Exchange. It actually, it was a great coincidence and really has helped me to accelerate what we want to do in the digital innovation hub, which is really focused on emerging consumer trends, changing technology, and bringing those together to really add business value to our organisation.
Sounds great. And it's good to see a really progressive approach to innovation in an organisation like Glanbia that are backing you in this as well. That's really exciting. And Ori, I'll come to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about Impeel.
Yeah, thanks for having me here today, please. We are a digital health platform driven by AI Core, and we are at a scale-up stage at the moment. We started trading from 2018. We have private funding, and we are an EI HPSU. We are closing a funding round as we speak at the moment, really. So we have our operation at the moment in India and Ireland, and we are growing quite fast there. We have about 14 team members spread across these 2 locations. But this year, we have a plan to expand to the Middle East, India, UK, and USA as well. To support that growth, we are going to grow in numbers as well. So we are hoping that we'll more than double the headcount in Ireland alone and move on from there, really.
Wow, exciting times at Impeel then, and really on a big growth trajectory. And so to the heart of the Innovation Exchange then, Brian, tell us a little bit about innovation at Glanbia and what kind of challenges do you face when delivering innovation?
Certainly. So I suppose when you mention the term innovation in Glanbia, traditionally you would, I suppose, think of food or ingredient or nutrition information. They've invested huge amounts over the years in that particular kind of sector. So I had to, I suppose, try and make a little bit of a mindset shift internally in the organization. I think everybody within the organization recognized that digital is, of rising importance and has been in our customers' lives for many, many years. So we need to be set up and structured in a way to understand those changing needs and to be able to deliver and almost get ahead of some of those changing consumer trends, how they're using technology and apply that to our business. So that was really kind of one point as to one of the challenges we faced. But then it was really thinking about how do we do that, So we recognize, I suppose, that we can't solve every single challenge ourselves. We don't even know what's out there, and a challenge being, trying to build out that network ourselves would be possible, but time consuming. What this has really helped us to do is accelerate that change. So there's a ready built network of SMEs that are there. We can speak to them directly. They can give us some ideas back, and that's the real value, I suppose, this Innovation Exchange has started to bring to it, is really enabling us to speed up that journey and to have those conversations sooner.
That's brilliant. And I think from your perspective then, Ori, understanding the challenges within big multinationals and big brands like Glanbia, that's a huge stepping stone to helping you provide the right kind of solutions. But I know that the business that you're in, tell us a little bit about how you're disrupting the industry with the innovation that you come up with, and also tell us a little bit about some of the challenges you faced in doing business and scaling and growing into corporate customers.
Yeah, those are 2 questions. I will answer the first bit first, how we are disrupting it. So I have been in large organizations for decades together. We've seen how employee well-being is treated over there. They have programs, but those are all ad hoc basis. There is no KPIs. There's no ROIs. It's more or less like a tick-in-the-box exercise. So we bring in that data-driven, multi-sided approach to this thing, and that is where we disrupt. Our theme is measure it to manage it. And so to measure it, you need that data. And that is where we go in with the AI-driven digital health platform. We gather data of person, and we kind of map users' well-being journey. And once we map the user's well-being journey, AI takes over, and then we not only give the recommendation, we also do a deep dive of analytics. We set the users how they're moving on their wellness journey. And this goes to the user, this goes to the health coaches, which is a multi-sided platform offers you. We are not just a standalone app. There is somebody who is helping you, which allows the growth to happen, allows the improvement to happen. We are also giving these reports out to the corporates. Now, when I say corporates, we are GDPR aware. We are not giving anybody's personal data, but you give them the trends to show them the programs that you have picked up, whether that is actually addressing your employees' needs and whether it is actually being picked up by the employees. So those are the information we give, and that is where we disrupt. It's pure data-driven approach. We are also disrupting the clinical industry, medtech sector. In chronic condition management, we help in management and prevention of chronic condition, and 40% of outcomes are dependent on behavioral and lifestyle changes. And that is where we come in. we are the complementary system to clinical system. They have the data, but they don't have the data on wellness. That is where we come in and kind of combine this as an effort and give a whole 360-degree view of wellness. So that is where we disrupt both the sectors, really. And coming to your second question, selling to the large corporates, it is challenging. No doubt about that. But they're large companies, large will move slowly, and changes are difficult to make in large organizations. But having said that, there are people who are thinking out of the box. There are people in large organizations who are trying to make the changes. One example is Brian here sitting next to me. But how do we, SMEs and scale-ups like ourselves, go and stand in front of them? That is probably the root of the problem, that we cannot sell to them, and that has become so much more challenging.
That's really interesting. And your whole business in that space of well-being, I know it's always been on the agenda for companies, but over the last 2 years now, much higher up the agenda for companies and part of corporate strategy. So you can really see the value add that MPEL can bring to corporates. And I'm sure from the messaging you're telling us there about how difficult it is to navigate corporates to the right buyers, to the right information, I'm sure that'll resonate with our SME audience as well. I don't think you're alone in that particular challenge. So it's good that the Innovation Exchange is helping there. And Brian, I'll come back to you. So I know you've alluded to this a little already, that the timings seem to be great between your Innovation Hub and the Innovation Exchange. But what made you take the plunge and sign up? What pushed you over the line to sign up and give this a go in the pilot phase?
Yeah, as I said, we were kind of in our pilot stage at the same time when we started speaking to the team at Dublin BIC. So it almost came before we were ready to kind of take on this as an innovation exchange. So I was convinced. It didn't take much convincing, I suppose, to kind of give it a go. I saw the potential value in it, even though necessarily we weren't ready to get involved. We got ahead of it, and the team in Dublin BIC were able to guide us through that process. But the value for us, the real value, is exposure to those SMEs. So, MPEL are speaking about the difficulty of an SME getting in front of, an organisation like us. The flip side is also true. So we, if we were to go out to every single vendor and try and understand the full landscape, we'd just get nowhere, So it's been able to accelerate that. It's able to, I suppose, turbo drive our kind of strategy a little bit. It's enabled me to get a couple of months ahead of where I thought I'd be. I'm really glad, I suppose, to be in this position. I wasn't sure we would, get to this stage, but delighted that we have been able to get to this stage. So it's been really, really beneficial, I think, in helping us do that. So I think I saw the opportunity in it. I was willing to kind of get stuck in, and thankful that I did, because it's really helped me.
Yeah, thankfully you had good judgment there, I think.
Lucky.
And Ori, this the same for you from the SME perspective then. What sort of inspired you to get involved in the Innovation Exchange, and how have you found it so far?
Yes, we always, as SMEs and scale-up, we always look for opportunities to go in front of the SMEs, have a program, have a meaningful program that leads to some real collaboration between large corporates and the SMEs and scale-ups. So Dublin BIC, this Innovation Exchange initiative, is just the best matchmaking program, for the lack of a better word, really. That is the best we have here at the moment. And one of the examples of the positive output is our collaboration with Glanbia. That has been incredibly good. So experience has been very positive, and Glanbia is not. We are also talking to a couple of other large organizations, and hopefully something else will come out there as well.
So pretty good experience so far. So not only a pilot with Glanbia, but you've got a few other things in the works for this year as well. That's an inspirational story right there. And Brian, as we work through the Innovation Exchange and through the process, and you kindly gave up your time to talk to our SME community about the sorts of challenges you were looking to solve and the innovation you were looking for. And then we narrowed that down, and a bunch of SMEs came to pitch to you. And tell us a bit about that experience. How did you find it, having those SMEs come and make proposals, and then the shortlist that pitched into you?
Yeah, I think the whole process has really been quite enjoyable. From the initial meeting that I would have had in front of the 100 or so SMEs, to hear immediately all the questions coming back, have you thought of this? Our technology can help here. On an initial 1 hour call, something along those lines.
Yeah.
I came off it hugely energized. I was like, okay, maybe we aren't thinking about that, but maybe we should be thinking about that. So even there was value in having that initial conversation. And then when we moved to, say, what was a long list of companies that submitted a brief proposal, again, you got to see another level of detail. It wasn't a huge amount, but I was able to kind of quickly go, okay, well, here's 5 that we want to speak to. Absolutely, these, we need to get these in front of our organization. But even the, say, 15 that we didn't, there was value in me reviewing those. I was able to ping them off to different people in the organization, even if they weren't right for my sort of innovation hub to work on a project with. So if there was something to do with data analytics, I was able to pass it to that team. And, there's value in kind of building out that so they're just aware of those SMEs anyway. And then when we did get to kind of pitch stage and, the more detailed proposal, it was, again, it's just great to see the enthusiasm, the energy, the ideas, that really helps me as well. I come off those calls really energized and wanting to move forward straight away. So the whole process has been really, really enjoyable start to finish. It's given me a great story to tell internally as well, because I have to sort of make that sales pitch as well. But yeah, hugely enjoyable process and very, very smooth. Thankful to the team at Dublin BIC for managing that through as well. It's been great.
Brilliant. And it's interesting, the byproduct you mentioned of the Innovation Exchange, that sometimes you weren't the right person, but you did know the right people in Glanbia to connect those SMEs onto, which was way beyond the scope of what we thought it would be. And we've seen other byproducts in the Innovation Exchange, SMEs wanting to collaborate together and collectively pitch to corporates, and also SMEs wanting to buy and sell off each other too. So we haven't quite wrestled that entire landscape of how big this could be, but it's really interesting to hear from your point of view that it didn't just stop in your team or your initial challenges, but way more beyond that as well. Really interesting. And so, Ori, let me come to you. You're now moving successfully into a pilot phase, which is really exciting. So what's next for you in terms of 2022, of what you have on the horizon and building out then your engagement with Glanbia?
Yeah, in 2022, we are moving into a pilot with Glanbia, which is a great journey, but it is just the beginning, really. So we are hopeful that this will continue for a very long time, and we'll move into further development going forward. See, we want to work with Glanbia and give them that X factor in the market, that they go out and stand out from their customer, from their competition, and kind of attract more customers there. We are going into a pilot which is obviously limited scope, which is within the controlled environment. But most important thing is we will get the data. Once we get the data, we know what direction we need to tweak it to reach out to the wider audience after this stage and actually hit the nail on the head, essentially. So that is what this pilot is all about. It is to find out what we need to tweak and how we need to address our joint offering to customers and attract them more. We want to grow with Glanbia, really, and 2022 is just the beginning. It is sure, I'm very hopeful that it will go beyond.
Well, that's really exciting, and we'll be closely supporting you and following that journey too. And lastly then, just to both of you, and I might come to you, Brian, first of all. So for any of the big companies, the corporates, looking today at the Innovation Exchange and considering joining it, what would be your recommendation, and what advice might you give them to really maximise their participation in it?
I think the main piece of advice really is just to be open, I suppose, to the value that it can bring. I didn't necessarily, as I said, know where the outcome was going to get to. I was hopeful that we'd kind of get to this position, but I didn't know. I think just be open, be willing to kind of have that initial conversation, take the first step. The team will guide you through. There's value in it, even if you figure out that it's not for you. There's value in having that initial conversation, speaking to the startups. You never know what's going to come back. It could be, as successful as our participation so far.
Brilliant. And same question to you, Ori, for any of our SME community online or here today. What would be your advice about the Innovation Exchange, and what guidance would you give them to make the most of the opportunity that might be ahead for them?
Yeah, see, the Innovation Exchange is essentially a collaborative environment. So the best way to approach it is being there, so first. And see, in the SME world, ourselves, I can tell you from my experience, we are too few hands chasing too many things. We don't have heads spare to kind of go into that. And if we go into the problem which SMEs face, I suppose, is that if I go into 10, 30-minute sessions, that's my 300 minutes gone. I may or may not hit even one. So there is a bit of a thing, but I think it is that 300 minutes very well spent. Even if it is not that we get a pilot or we get an opportunity to collaborate, but to understand what the large organizations are looking for, where their problems lie. If we can tweak our product to suit their need, it might be a bit of a market validation as well to figure out where this is going. So I think my request would be that everybody please join, see if there is anything there.
Brilliant endorsement. I don't think I need to do any more on top of that.
Well, Glanbia is an example of this.
Well, listen, on that note, I just want to thank you both so much for joining us here today and for all your participation in the pilot. We're delighted that you're one of our success stories, one of our many success stories. And it's been great to hear you bring this whole thing to life for people so they can understand what that journey might look like. But for now, Brian Leahy from Glanbia and Ori Day from Impeel, thank you so much, and I'll hand back to you, Una.
Wow, super insights. How the Innovation Exchange can work in real life and the value it can bring and the tangible results it can bring for businesses both large and small. So thank you so much, Liz, Orivinda and Brian. And for those of you that are inspired following that conversation, just head to the Innovation Exchange website. It's a real simple way to register. And yes, please do, as Orivinda said, get involved. Don't miss out. I now have the pleasure of welcoming Michael Culligan, CEO of Dublin BIC, to the stage. Michael is our final speaker and he will close out the event. Dublin BIC, led by Michael, has crystal clear purpose. It is about delivering game-changing impacts to ambitious founders, to entrepreneurs. This purpose has very clear synergies with the Innovation Exchange. And to hear more about this, please welcome Michael Culligan.
Thanks kindly, Una. A few closing remarks to those who are joining us online. We have a blended audience today and those here in person with us in the centre. And maybe actually just listening to Paul earlier in kicking off, I think I particularly want to acknowledge the role of Tracy and our colleague John Phelan. Our organisation, Dublin Business Innovation Centre, has been around for 35 years. Its role in life is to empower entrepreneurs to start and scale businesses. Our engagement with the SkillNet organisation started through the animation SkillNet, through John Phelan, formerly from the animation background industry himself. And that led on, as Paul had said, to immersive and screen tech in more recent times. Our core area of activity, as Una is referring there to, is really helping those who have an idea to take that to economic wealth creation, etc. In that regard, I have been prodding my colleague John for a little while to say, I think there must be something we can do, and this particular area today. So I'm genuinely pleased to have a few minutes to tell you why I think this is so important, and this is not easy, this Innovation Exchange, to try and fix it, and the guys were talking about there a little bit. So maybe the first thing to say is I don't think we could be in a more appropriate place than the Guinness Enterprise Centre to launch formally launch the Innovation Exchange. Some of you will be familiar. If those of you online, if you haven't been here, please do come and visit us. It's Ireland's home for ambitious entrepreneurs, and it's been around since 1998. Some of you will know we've been through a major project over the last couple of years, a 10 million project to double the size of it. Our vision for the GEC is crystal clear. It's to be a global entrepreneurial super hub, interconnected nationally and internationally. That involves business, startup, scale up, and of course multinationals, which we'll come to in a moment. Government, who are of course involved through local and national government. Academia, who are major league involved. We've partnered worldwide through our university program with about 40 global universities here. And of course the community, and our engagement with the community is multifold. In summary, the centre itself is home to 750 to 800 people. We're 75 to 80% full. It'll be full in 2022. The nature of an incubation centre is it churns people. They grow. Some come in, some make it, some don't. Some join another company. They grow up, they move out to get their own office, etc. And that's exactly as it should be. But over a period of 5 years, you're talking about 1,500 direct jobs in the centre. Every direct job creates creates an indirect job. So the Guinness Enterprise Centre project, which we're extremely proud of, is a 3,000 job project in the heart of inner city Dublin 8. And I consider it to be at the juncture of Indigenous entrepreneurship and FDI. And that's reflected by the clients that are here. We have young clients in the centre like Sonia at Wellola with technology for client communication in the healthcare world. We have companies, early stage companies like Examfly with Deirdre, who are in the edtech space, bringing gamification to education to third level and beyond. We have companies like Celio Medical with Colin McGarvey and his colleague, who are addressing the issue of 1/3 of all lungs collapse when you do a biopsy. And it's a serious issue both in terms of cost and pain. They're working out of the centre. And the centre itself has been supported by a long-term loan from the Ireland Strategic Investment Fund. It is indirectly government money, but it absolutely has to be paid back. So this is a real-world environment, and we work with people here. But you know, it's a commercial environment, and that's what it should be. The engagement with St James's Hospital in the healthcare, and it's interesting to hear the initial example there, is something we're really particularly excited about. I mean, healthcare is such a challenge, it's such a big part of our budget overall, and the idea of delivering healthcare in the community. And we have recently signed a long-term MOU with St James's Hospital and with Mary Day, who's the Chief Executive, and Orla Veal. And in fact, Orla is leading the innovation side of the activity in St James's, and she's here in the centre today with a range of our colleagues in an innovation workshop. So the partnership we have started with St James's has a particular focus on areas of digital healthcare and medtech, and to try and find companies in those areas to feed them into St James's where they can do clinical trials and start working with them. So actually the innovation exchange is so synergistic in that regard. Briefly, how are we doing in terms of Ireland? You know, Ireland has this, I suppose, symbiosis between foreign direct investment and Indigenous entrepreneurship. We all know the hugely important role of FDI, and it will continue to be core, and that cannot be underestimated. The reality during the pandemic is we were able to keep going. We were able to do all these funds and various things to pay people who weren't able to work, etc. A lot of that came from the tax and the FDI. So FDI will continue to be core to us. However, we do need to continue to guard against this idea of a dual-track economy or a gap with SMEs. We're doing a lot really, really well in Ireland, I think. You get a lot of talk about entrepreneurship and, you know, how are we doing and all that, and there's always more to do. A lot of clever people all around the world, so, you know, when you're starting up a new idea, etc. But we're doing some things really well. President Macron, and there was a French delegation here in the GEC actually during the French visit with Bruno Le Maire, the finance minister for France, and they spent a few hours with us back in September. And you know, France has a huge focus on entrepreneurship in the last number of years, even though France would be, you know, has some bureaucratic challenges which can make it difficult for start-up and scale-up companies. And they set themselves an ambition, and this is only one measure, of having 25 unicorns, these $1 billion companies, by 2025. Now, France has now reached 25 of those in 2022. We in Ireland actually now have 6 of these unicorns, haven't had none a couple of years ago. So pro rata to our population, we're probably 3 times ahead of where France is. Now, that doesn't mean everything is okay, but it means we're doing some things right. And I should qualify quickly that unicorns are by no means the only measure. Most companies will not become unicorns, and that's absolutely fine. Most companies will employ 100, 200 people or 50 people. They'll create economic wealth and allow people to go to colleges and create new family units and all of that, which is exactly as it should be. A lot of good stuff has been happening over the years in terms of SFI, Science Foundation Ireland, putting money into the colleges for blue sky research. In more recent times, we have, in terms of the good stuff, we have a new VC fund, a fund of funds to support startups. But there's a huge opportunity for us to do more. And that in particular, I think, revolves around incentivizing the risk takers in terms of those who invest money into very risky early stage companies. And you know, there's more that can be done in terms of, I won't get into the detail, but around the tax incentives in that regard. And right now there is a tax and welfare commission sitting in the country for only the 4th time in the history of the state, and I really, really do hope that that at long last can address some of the opportunities and challenges that exist in that area. Briefly, we ourselves at Dublin BIC, how do we support companies? We do so through partnering with Enterprise Ireland and the department and working with maybe half of the HPSU companies. We do so by running the HBAN Business Angel Network, which has grown dramatically over the years and now on an annual basis is facilitating of the order of 18 million of pure private capital linked to young startup companies. We do so by running and managing a new seed to Series A venture fund, the Ireland Smart Tech Fund, through ourselves at DBIC. And that will invest in the top 25 to 30 companies. We already have 9 investments complete and expect to do another 6 or 7 this year. We do so through running FutureScope, which became the #1 innovation event in the country and will be back later this year. And that's why, in fact, Innovation Exchange is so synergistic with us. The whole idea of FutureScope was, in fact, and is to connect scale-up companies with multinationals and to celebrate Irish innovation. Some of the companies we'll have worked with in that area, in all of these areas, will include the likes of Buy Me, which you'll know with Devin Hughes, the grocery app, GlowFox, Conor O'Loughlin, the fitness app, many of you might know that as well, Learn Upon, Brendan Now, leading learning management systems globally. In terms of the Innovation Exchange, to wrap things up a little bit, I really think the time is now, and I'll tell you why. And if I had only had 30 seconds, here's what I would have said to you. I'm fond of talking, says you. You know, if I think of companies we've worked with over the years, and I'll pick 3 examples. Silvercloud Health in the area of mental health care and well-being, headed by Ken Cahill, now leading globally, growing dramatically in the States, really of its time. Paul Quigley of NewsWhip, company leading in media monitoring for major brands in terms of the impact of stories on positive or negative on the organisation. Company like Grid Beyond, Michael Phelan, came into us in 2013 with 2 people at the time. Now they're a global leader in smart grid, smart energy. All those 3 have one thing in common, apart from the fact that we were lucky enough to do a little bit of work with them. All of them succeeded abroad before they did at home. And for many years, I have been passionate about a couple of things in the entrepreneurship area, but this is one definitely. So we have all the FDI here, and definitely not as much is being done or happening in terms of connecting startup and scale-ups with multinationals. Now, the multinationals can be Irish or international, of course. So that's why, when John and Tracy chatted originally, and this is the shape that it started to take, that I was really excited about it. It's very synergistic. Our prime area of activity at Dublin BIC is to help people with an idea, with a startup and a scale-up. But then those companies, when they start to scale up, access to the corporates is the next piece. So listen, without further delay, I suppose, the idea of connecting the SMEs in an innovation-driven digital transformation area is something that we're very, very passionate about. This won't be easy. It's, people have tried this for a long time, but we think, we have extremely goodwill on both sides. I'd like to thank formally Paul Healy and Tracy and Liz and all the skill in that team. And of course on our own side, John I've mentioned, Conor who heads it up, Claire and Una and all our own team. And the most important people in all of this are the entrepreneurs who are here and who are with us online at home. Please do reach out. We know how tough it is. Anything easy, anything worth having is never easy, and the journey is what it's about. So listen, we look forward to continuing to support you through any of the touch points there. And thanks to everybody. We close it formally. Thanks.